So, and I said, I'll ask him. Yeah. So it's good that.
He'll come in at night and we'll have a plexan guard around us.
Like a Pope maybe.
And we'll put him out there, okay?
So,
Like a Blues Brothers, you know,
Yeah,
we're
it's
throwing.
nice.
I hope not.
Yeah. Is that something you want done as far as for your,
Well, that's what I have it come to, because once
Council meeting, August 7th,
like to bring the meeting to order, would you please rise for the pledge? Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
No, it's all right. Roll call, please.
Councilor Bowie?
Here.
Councilor Bickford?
Yeah.
Councilor Ward?
here.
Councilor Pomelo?
Here.
Councilor La Rochelle?
Here.
Councilor Lunt?
Here.
And we'll mark Gina excused. Okay.
First item?
Public hearing, there is none, so we begin with audience participation. At this time, those in the audience who wish to address the council may come forward. Please use the microphone at the podium.
Yes, sir.
Quit calling me sir, I worked for a living once. My name's Larry Fillmore. I live in Lisbon. I asked the town clerk what the procedure was for asking questions of a department head. And she informed me it was to send an email to the department heads, and when I do that, I get a response from the finance director to submit a FOIA. I didn't request any documents or anything. Apparently, the department heads have no clue what the proper procedure really is. Can the chief administrative officer please enlighten his department heads and me as to what is the proper procedure to follow so I can comply? Here's the FOIA. Okay.
The procedure has not changed since we implemented it. All requests for information goes through the town clerk. And Mr. Fillmore, you have followed that procedure up until that time, from what I can tell, so.
I did, but she told me that that was the way to answer questions and not documents, so I did that. And that's why I brought this up. Twyla was the one that gave me the directions,
Oh, sorry for the confusion, I apologize.
okay? I have, as you know, I know how to fill those out.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I do. We're on 50, I think.
Yes, we are.
Okay? So I don't mind complying. It's just that the confusion when I do what I'm told, okay, then we go through this. After listening to the town planner, I was thinking, why doesn't the town work with these illegal businesses to relocate them in town where they can operate their businesses legally? I understand the additional overhead, but it's much better than having to close. There certainly is enough empty space in town. Also, the town owns a lot of property and could offer these illegal business owners a deal they cannot refuse, since the town is responsible for this mess to begin with. Trying to find loopholes in the comprehensive plan or our ordinances is not the right answer. The majority of the entire town voted to approve the comprehensive plan, and it is their vision of what Lisbon should be. So it's not right to go against their wishes, to legalize these businesses on Route 9, just to appease a few. On July 10th, I requested a copy of the updated revolving loan portfolio. This is the report I had to go to court to get the first time. The judge stated I was entitled to this information and the town provided it to me. Since this is a new year and there were 3 loans which should have been paid off, and the council approved a new loan on June 19th, I wanted a new listing. I did not ask for any new information in the FOIA. However, the town manager sent me a letter stating, and I quote, "The request for the information pertaining to the outstanding loan documents has already been provided to you. The information that you are requesting has not changed. Should you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me." Knowing the town manager had just provided me false information on a FOIA, which I understand is a felony, I sent him an email hoping he would realize his mistake, but instead the town manager sent me another letter telling me I was not entitled to additional information according to the court. I never asked for any additional information to begin with, only an update to what I had previously been provided by the town. Why is it so hard to get information from the town when our mission statement and the state laws state we are entitled to it? What is the town trying to hide? It takes 2 priests, a nun, a rabbi, and a pope to get any information out of the town. And that's ridiculous. I shouldn't have to go through that. That's already been decided in court. I didn't ask for anything but an update because it's a new year.
Would you like me to answer that?
If you have the information.
You're asking for information, new information that does not exist. The loan that you're talking about that the council approved has not been closed. So there is no account set up for this. The promissory note has been signed, but both legal counsel and their legal counsel has to do a formal closing. So nothing has changed. And the information on all the other loans that you're entitled to has not changed.
Okay. All right, the last thing is, has the council looked into the TIF program? There are numerous discrepancies been identified and needs the council's immediate attention. I brought that up last time.
The TIF, the council is aware of the TIFs, some of the concerns of prior. A lot of the concerns you have are prior to this council and prior to this administration. There are some things that we're working through. But I mean, all we can do is do the best we can from legal to try to take care of those as we go. There's no magic button we can do to correct some of the stuff that's happened in the past. Legal has informed us that there's nothing that's going to hurt the town or could jeopardize the town by the way things have been. And I think we're just moving through the correct items that we can. But, I mean, there's nothing that this council can react on to change anything.
Okay, I realize it was all in the past. I do that. Okay, but it's been identified, and we should be working towards cleaning it up.
I think we are.
And
It
I don't
is
know
all
that we
cleaned
are.
up. There is nothing wrong with the TIF documents. There's nothing wrong with how the town has managed their TIFs. Everything has been done properly, and so there's nothing that needs to be cleaned up from this point on. Everything has been taken care of.
And that's where it stands.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I asked. Thank you.
It would be a sad day when I didn't make a comment. Dot Fitzgerald, resident of Lisbon Falls. I see on the workshop the Davis Cemetery is coming up again. I spoke on it, I think, at the previous meeting in audience participation, and I really, I can feel Mr. Bob Packett's pain, because it's a lot of work taking care of a cemetery, but I just feel that it's the wrong thing for the town to undertake is the care and the upkeep of a cemetery. We have many, many private cemeteries, small ones, a lot that are not being kept up, and it's just a bad thing to do. It's opening the door to a lot of problems and to a lot of expense and work that the town is not capable of undertaking. The recreation, the Parks Department, Verla, and Public Works are stretched to the limit right now, and I just don't feel that they should be undertaking anything else. I'm not going to be popular by saying this, and I have mentioned this before. Town employees using town vehicles for their own personal use. There was a employee of the school department it came to my attention, a vehicle was being used for someone's own private use, and I brought that up to Mr. Green, and evidently that has been stopped because I see that vehicle at the high school now at weekends and evenings. So evidently that came to a stop, and using town-owned vehicles for personal use is an extra burden to the town. It's putting mileage, the care and upkeep of town-owned vehicles, and then when that vehicle needs to be replaced, it's an expense to the town, and I just don't think that this is right. I'm not going to be popular by saying this, and I'm sorry, but this is my personal feeling. Thank you.
Roger Cody, Lisbon Falls. In tonight's agenda, you're going to be looking at replacing a wood trailer for the transfer station. This same wood trailer has been passed by a good many times with the council back when I was on board and since, and I hope you people take favorable look at spending that money and getting that taken care of, because I think they've earned it and they've waited for it for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, we're going to have you come up into, I think we actually have you on a separate part of the agenda.
Yes, we have.
Yes, yep, you have your own time.
I can address the cemetery question that Don had, if you'd like.
Actually, we will be doing a workshop on it also, but, yep, we'll be discussing a lot more about that. Next item, Twyla. There's no other audience participation?
Audience participation response, if you have any.
It was really only one direct question last time. It was from Dot. Dot, I checked into our town reports, and you were correct. We were getting low. Matter of fact, to the point of being very minimal. So there are the ability to see town reports now. Twyla, I believe you have a couple left for viewing. I believe there's one in the town manager's office. The library does have some, or one there, one or two for people to look at. If someone actually wants a copy, a hard copy, they can print them. They are on the website, so you can print them off yourself, or if you come to the town, they can print your copy, but there will be a fee for printing it. But as far as for hard copies, they've pretty much been diminished, the numbers. We're hoping that we would kind of wean down on them, but this year they're kind of real quick. Dot.
Thank you very much. Yes, the librarian had told me that you were almost out or out. See what a little publicity and keeping them available will do? Isn't it amazing?
They're gone. Yep, that's good. And I believe that's the question we had to answer. So we looked into it, Dot, and you're right. Next year we're going to have to look at to see number-wise. We're hoping to try to wean out of hard copies and get more on the internet, but we'll have to take a look and see where we're going to be. And I believe that closes the next item. Twyla?
Is under consent agenda. Any counselor wishing to have an item removed may do so now. Order 2012-110 to approve the minutes of July 17th, 2012.
So move.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Next item.
Under council orders, resolutions, and ordinances, Order 2012-111, library air conditioner bids.
Ryan Layton will talk to you about these, answer your
Evening.
questions.
Your packets, copy of the RFP that was sent out to a number of vendors, including Specialty Services Corporation, Mechanical Services, Mason Mechanical, Damon Mechanical, Central Maine Air Conditioning, and Thayer Corporation, seeking pricing for the installation of called the ductless split air conditioning system. We've got one that we've installed at the police department. We've got one in this closet here to cool the servers, and we recently installed two at the treatment plant. as well. We got 4 bids. Specialty services was $23,961. Mechanical services was $15,450. Central Maine air conditioning was $12,565, and Thayer Corporation was $14,480. Recommend awarding the project to Central Maine air conditioning for $12,565.
Could you just, before we have council, could you actually, I'd asked you a couple more questions earlier about the idea of the cost of electrical, because most of these actually said the electrical wasn't included.
Yep.
And then actually kind of give us the amount that we actually
We
actually put
budgeted,
in.
well, I'll start first. We budgeted $20,000, and that was based on, we'd originally had a budget number that Mechanical Services had provided for us. The electrical is going to be approximately $2,000 based on what it costs to install the ones at the treatment plant. So we're looking at a total project cost of just over $14,000, right around $15,000 roughly for total project costs, so we're within budget.
So one of these bids actually kind of out of our budget range anyways, in a sense.
Yeah, that was a completely different unit that included ductwork and a air intake system. It was mounted on the roof, and I didn't want anything mounted on the roof. These units will all be mounted on brackets on the walls themselves, because we've already got some in the basement of we did the children's room several years ago. And those ones the outside units set on a pad outside on the ground, and it was getting kind of cluttered between the library and the fire station. So these ones are all designed to mount on a bracket on the wall. So they'll be up high.
Out of danger.
Yeah.
Any questions, council?
Yeah, let's see, a couple. I noticed in these, or in your specifications, you said that the vendor was responsible for sizing.
Yep.
Right, and the only one of the vendors mentions in there that they actually used anything to actually perform the sizing. So how do we know the rest of these are sized appropriately?
They're all roughly sized the same. The Thayer bid shows that they bid 2.5-ton cooling units, and the ones that
I know they identified the size of the unit,
Yep.
right? But I'm trying to understand, right, based on the RFP, we asked them to tell us what size we needed. So what steps did they go through to determine the size? That's not documented in
Yep.
any of their proposals, with the exception of Mechanical Services.
Correct, and more than likely, they all did a similar heat calculation or went to the manufacturer of the unit and told them the size of the space that they were trying to cool. We've done this with every installation that we've done because no one here is a HVAC.
Oh, no, I think it's a good thing to do. I just was concerned that none of the other vendors
Explain
documented
how
their
they did it.
approach or how they did it to say that it's actually done and do we have the right size units? Because not all of these, in each of these vendors, are the same size units.
Right.
Right. Some are 3,
Some
some
of
are
the
2, some are
Mechanical
bigger, some are
Services one is
lower.
quite a bit bigger than everyone else.
And they also, Mechanical Services mentions that theirs meet the Efficiency Main incentive programs. Do the rest of these meet the Efficiency Main incentive program, so we can get rebates for that?
I would suspect that they do, but I can't say that for sure without talking to the vendor.
I think the vendor would get the rebate, not us, right?
No, we would get the
No, we
rebate, but
get
they would help us.
The rebate comes to us.
They would help us apply for it. And I can follow that up with the vendor. I mean, the literature that was given to me on the Mitsubishi unit, which is the unit that Central Maine Air Conditioning recommended, shows that it's got the highest efficiency for the heat pump aspect of it, because these are not only air conditioners, they also will provide heating alternatives, especially in the fall when it's not as cold. And that literature shows that they're the most efficient ones out of all of them. And they're the only ones that provided the heat pump option as the part of the base bid. Mechanical Services,
That's an add-on.
right.
So why are they so cheap?
Because he's a one-man show. That's why, when I talked to Thayer was in today to look at another RFP that we have out for our routine maintenance. And that's basically, why. He has no overhead. And that's why he's a one-man operation versus all these other ones are major companies.
Ryan, I don't want to assume anything, but, and I'm sure you've done this, but the bid from Central Maine is 4 sentences, and the other bids are a little more detailed, so, since you're the expert on this, I want to make sure we're not comparing an apple to an orange to a plum.
Yep.
I'd like to make sure we're comparing apples to apples, and
All the units are roughly the same size is what I'm going to say, because none of them are the same size. You've got the ones from Thayer they reference 2.5 tons, which is, they're going to be roughly 28,000 BTUs. I'm spitballing here because I don't have their information in front of me. Based on the information that was provided through Mitsubishi, the ones that Central Maine Air Conditioning are recommending are in the 24 to 26,000 range. Hang on a second.
Do you want these, Ryan?
No, it's that. The cooling on these is the 25,200 BTUs, and the heating aspect of it is 29,700. And mechanical services was showing 30,000, so they're about 5,000 BTUs bigger than each one. After talking to Thayer today, they thought that the mechanical services ones were way oversized. And his calculations, he's thinking that the Mitsubishi one is probably right at the right size. He's wondering if it's maybe a little small, but then again, he's also lost the bid to the next guy. So the Central Maine Air Conditioning gentleman stands by his sizing and his equipment, and and the only thing I can go off from is that he did the installation for us on some units that weren't quite as expensive for the treatment plant because the building is a lot smaller, and they've been fantastic this summer. The installation was great, and we've had no issues, and again, granted, we've got 2 months on them. But based on that, I mean, I didn't have an issue with awarding the bid to him.
thank you.
Quite frankly, I don't have an issue awarding the bid to any of these options, but,
Just the one that's over budget.
correct.
Go ahead.
And the only thing he didn't specify, as the others did, is the 1-year warranty.
No, I would say he didn't.
I think the other ones are specifying the manufacturer's 1-year warranty, I think, were.
Yeah, well, it looked like mechanical services was pretty, not that I'm advocating to go there, but parts, labor, new equipment, 6-year compressor, 2-year Fujitsu parts warranty, so that's actually the manufacturer's, but it looked like they were doing a 1-year warranty.
From what I understand, the Mitsubishis have historically been pricing themselves out of the market because they've been too expensive. As indicated, they're supposedly the Cadillac of the options. But I have nothing to go on other than that's the feedback I've gotten from multiple vendors in terms of that they hadn't been pricing them in the past because they hadn't been affordable enough. They've been too expensive.
Mark, Gina, any comments, questions?
I got to say that whatever we do, right now they have 2, I think, window units that we take in and out every winter, or not every winter, but you know what I mean. And whatever we do there is going to be, first of all, it's going to make Diane happy, which will make me happy, and then it's going to work in that small space.
Right, do you know what the current BTUs are in the current system?
I don't. I
know.
knew someone asked that. I don't.
Yeah, it's small anyway, whatever it is, yeah.
They're 2 window units, so they've got to be, I don't know. I'm not even going to guess.
Can you check on the, although I mean, this is the industry that I work in, even though it's the opposite end of that industry. So I know a teeny bit, but not a lot. But what I'd like to do is just, if you could, for our peace of mind, make sure that there's a good warranty on the Mitsubishis and also a labor warranty.
Yep.
And check and see, sometimes the manufacturers offer rebates on the higher priced units.
Okay.
And what's the total amount you're looking for to include the electrical work?
Would be,
Well, the electrical's
A guesstimate.
yeah, ballpark. I mean, it's gonna be whatever the time and material for a local electrician to run the wires.
so you're just asking.
I'm just asking to award the big number for the one contract.
And the electrical falls within the range of not needing to come back to us?
It'll be less than $2,000 is my guess.
So if we make a recommendation, the recommendation will just have to include the idea that they would like to see the warranty at least match the other
Yep.
quotes. And that, that we just make sure the efficiency of the machine is, I assume it is. I mean, it is nice to actually have something qualify for efficiency main, but what I've found in my business is everything that you usually end up paying 25% more to get a 3% rebate because of the efficiency. I mean, it's kind of the process. They want you to have something that's too big and so it runs very efficiently, but you
I'd be
gotta pay for it in
surprised
the
if it
front.
didn't. I mean, and that's, I mean, we went through this when we installed the boiler at Public Works.
Yeah.
And they gave us a check for $5,000.
Mm.
So, I mean, it's,
It may be something nice to look into, that's
Yep,
all. Especially
absolutely.
with the area that we're in for trying to be more efficient, so. Do I actually have a,
So I would make a motion to award the library air conditioning system to Central Maine Air Conditioning and Heating Incorporated for $12,565, with the understanding that we're gonna look at warranty for labor and parts and efficiency rebate.
I'll second that.
all those in favor? Those
Order
opposed?
passed, 7-0.
Lisa, were you abstaining?
I am abstaining.
Oh, there
Lisa's
you are.
abstaining.
Okay, so 6-0-1. That went quick, thank you.
Next item, you might as well stay up.
yep.
Order 2012-112, solid waste wood trailer bids.
Can I start off by saying, yes, I got three bids and none of them are detailed to specs. And I don't, I mean, I guess I really don't know how to answer that question. So, yeah, anyway. The wood trailer was budgeted for replacement this year. And we put together an RFP for, what we had right now is it's a live floor trailer that's terrible. Whenever they crush it down, sometimes they go down and come back with wood still in it because they can't get it out because the belt doesn't work. I think we explained all this during the budget process, which is why this was budgeted. What we've gone to is a dump trailer, but it's a demolition body, and it's the same style body they use at Grimmel's with their salvage operations and whatnot. So we sent out an RFP to 4 different vendors: Messer Truck Equipment, Howard P. Fairfield, Whited Truck, and Hale Trailer. We received 3 bids. Howard P. Fairfield was $53,949, Hale Trailer was $48,000, and Messer Truck was $71,900. And we're asking permission to award the bid to Hale Trailer. And I'll be honest, the RFP that we wrote was based around the one that they had at Hale. The guys at transfer station have checked out options throughout the year, and Hale has this one in stock in Portland, so we're able to climb all around it and look at it, and so we based one around that. I believe the HP Fairfield is closest to the same style. It's a U-shaped trailer. Messers provided a bid on one that's more of a box trailer. So I think the U-shaped one's definitely a better design anyway. They all met the specs in one way or another. The Messer spec is much more detailed than the other two, and so I had the vendor the salesman from Hale Trailer look at the specs and tell me how they were the same, different, or not. And after all is said and done, they're all essentially the same, except for the trailer that we're asking to buy has a taller frame support. It's a 20-inch I-beam instead of a 16-inch I-beam, so we feel quite comfortable with the trailer that we've selected to purchase. It's within the $50,000 budget that we had. Actually, it's a lease payment, but it's, you know, the ballpark was $50,000 for that project. And we can pick it up and get it pretty quick.
So the suspension's all the same, basically, in all of them?
Essentially, yes, they've got the one, it's the single point suspension, which was what these guys were asking for.
25,000 pound axles.
All the brakes are to spec anyways. I mean, that's all code now anyways. I mean,
Yep.
Ryan, did you, were you able to ask them what their regular, there's a certain reason they have this in stock, and did you find out what the regular price would be for this trailer?
Yeah, it wasn't much more than
Wasn't a whole lot
only
more.
like $3,000 more.
So it means you can beat them up a little bit more. maybe. Talking to Ryan, they don't typically stock these type of items, but they have it for a reason, because it came in and it didn't leave. So, that's.
I guess
one of the
Hale
reasons.
Trailer's a lot bigger too than I realized. They're all up and down the East Coast. And he was gonna ship this one back a while back, but he knew that we were gonna be putting this out through the budget and held on to it in case he was a little bitter.
So what was the item that we have for budgeted for this amount?
It's a lease payment amount based on a $50,000 amount.
Cost.
So even though we could maybe, the lease could be arranged to there's really only one that fits within that, if we're looking at a dollar value for the
Correct.
lease.
Well, actually, it would, well, yeah, right.
I mean, 'cause-
The amount, but at least, if I'm gonna say you could go longer years,
Get
Yeah.
less payment.
right, but it would end up costing you more, so,
At the end of the day, yeah.
right.
Any questions from council as far as on the dump trailer?
This doesn't include any trade-in or anything like that in order to get that price?
No, we were gonna negotiate that after the fact, based on whoever the low bidder was. I don't know as though we're gonna get a whole lot for what we have. And quite honestly, maybe our best bet is just to drive it to Grimmel's and see what it weighs out at and what they'd give us.
It is an option.
I mean, that's, after we got this, you know, sorted
Drive
out.
to Grimmel's and find out first before you.
Well, yeah, before you go to Portland with it.
You'd be surprised. I mean, one thing that Mr. Green did with the buses, he actually put them on Craigslist and put them on the website, and he actually ended up getting a substantial amount of money for some of the stuff that he wasn't going to get money for,
Right.
much money for buses, because there are people out there looking, and our junk may be another town's only option,
True.
so.
I would make a motion to award the boat trailer replacement to Hale Trailer at $48,000.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Would have passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Next item?
Order 2012-113, MMA Annual Election, Vice President and Executive Committee members.
You had in your packets the people who are up for election. Mr. Peter Nielsen. I do know Peter, he's a good man, very bright. From Oakland, he's the town manager there. I don't know any of the other individuals who are running for the executive committee, but there's only three, and you need three.
So I would make a motion to vote for Vice President Peter Nielsen and for directors John Butler, Michael Croker, and Mary Ann Moore.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, since those are our options?
Order passed 7-0.
They didn't exactly give us a lot of choice, did they?
Could have wrote somebody in.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. We do have an item to sign on that also. after.
Oh, we all have to sign that?
Next item?
Under other business, county charter presentation.
You're up, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Richard Gross, and I'm a resident of the town of Turner, and I was elected the chairman of the County Charter Commission when we organized, which was back in February of 2011. In the interim months, we have been meeting. At first, we met twice a month, and then we finally got the charter beginning to look like something we thought we could take to the voters and so we didn't meet quite as often. We have complied with all the state statutes in terms of how we operate, meaning we had to hold 3 public hearings. We had our latest one 3 weeks ago, I believe it was. So we have complied as far as we are concerned with all the state statutes that govern our operations. The reason that we have created this charter was because the voters of the county at an election, and I'm not even sure when that election was, I'm guessing it was in 2010, voted to create a charter commission to write a charter for Androscoggin County. That process worked its way through, and there were 9 members of the Charter Commission. 6 of us were elected, and the other 3 were appointed. The commission, as it was finally composed, consisted of myself from Turner. I may have to use my brain here a minute. Bob Meneely from the city of Auburn, Chip Morrison from the city of Auburn, Dick Grandmaison and Helen Poulin from the city of Lewiston, and then representing the other remaining towns were myself, Scott Lansley from Sabatis, and who am I forgetting? Oh, no, that's it. That's it. Then the 3 appointed members, one had to be a municipal official, and Larry Morrow from the town of Poland, he's a selectman in Poland, was appointed. One of the members of the commission has to be a representative to the legislature, and that was Garrett Mason. And one of the present commissioners also has to serve on the commission, and that was Randy Greenwood. This was an excellent group of people. We had some very fruitful meetings. My particular past is in education as a teacher and college instructor. And so at the first meeting after they elected me, I gave them homework assignments. And we started the writing process. Now, there are lots of pieces of information that I can give you. I don't know how much you want to get into this, but in the state of Maine, there are only 5, I believe, counties who have charters. The most recent one to be approved by the voters was Cumberland County. In the beginning of our work, we looked at county charters in Maine and out of Maine. And we thought or felt that the Cumberland County Charter was probably the best model to follow. So we basically used their charter, recently approved by the voters, as our model. To create a charter is a very difficult task, but we didn't have any major issues amongst ourselves at all. If you have time sometime, I hope you will take the time to read through this. A lot of the language is pro forma. In other words, it has to be there. It's in every charter. Even some of your town and municipal charters have the same kinds of language in them. There are certain positions on page 1, the sheriff, the judge of probate, and the register of probate have to be elected, so we could not change that at all. We voted and decided in the final analysis to have a county commissioner board of 7 people. State law says you can have 3, you can have 5, you can have 7. We were very aware of how our commissioners function at the present time in a board of 3. And no one proposed 3. The majority of the committee was in favor of the 7. The reason being that gives the outlying communities, and when I talk about outlying communities, I'm talking about outside of Lewiston and Auburn, more opportunity to have a representative as a county commissioner. because the districts that the county commissioners serve have to be approximately equal in terms of population represented, this becomes rather difficult to decide. In our initial proposed charter, we did divide the county up into districts. We submitted that document to the Secretary of State's office in January. We did not hear from them until June. And they had some major issues with it. We had talked to the city clerks in both Lewiston and Auburn, because that's where the major impact was in the assignment of those districts, because you have to divide the city up into districts, if you will, within the wards that currently exist. And we had worked with the town clerks on manipulating that and getting that in order. But then the Secretary of State raised an issue. So we have, in this document that you have in front of you, we have removed the districts completely from the charter. That's exactly what they did in Cumberland County as well. They did not assign the districts until after the charter had been approved by the voters. Another reason that the Secretary of State urged us to do that is because there will be a redistricting in the year 2013, which will have major impacts on Lewiston and Auburn particularly. And so that's another reason why we felt that we just needed to forget about the districts that we had assigned. However, we as a charter commission have forwarded to the county commissioners a list of recommendations about how those districts will be decided in the final analysis. One of these is governed by geography, and this is in the state statute, that any district in the county has to be geographically contiguous. In other words, we couldn't put Lisbon and Livermore Falls in the same district because they are not geographically contiguous to one another. So that also had to come into play and into effect, as well as the population base, because it's supposed to be one person, one vote, as near as possible. That was impossible to do, of course, but we were very, very close on our population numbers based on the latest census data that we had in front of us. So in this charter, the proposal is for 7 county commissioners. The other major part of this charter is the development of a position of county administrator. Mike can tell you what's the budget for Androscoggin County, Michael, total, bottom line?
A little over $7 million.
$7 million. We do not have a person administering that $7 million budget. That's why we felt that it was absolutely essential that we have a county administrator who would act as the administrator of that budget and coordinate all the various departments within the county government. Currently, that does not exist. And so that became a vital issue for us as far as this charter was concerned. We also are concerned here in the charter, and we address it with issues of coordination amongst municipalities, in terms of the county, as well as in terms of the municipalities. And there are many ways that if we worked together with the different towns and cities within the county, that there might be some kinds of savings. I'm thinking solely in terms of purchasing, for example, fuel oil, gas for vehicles, those kinds of issues. We feel that this is a very viable document. We are putting it out to the voters on the ballot in November. And so we have done presentations in all the towns in the county at their annual town meetings. Now, you don't have a town meeting, so this is the only public forum or public meeting that I'm aware of that will be held in the town of Lisbon to talk about this. We are open, we meaning the members of the Charter Commission, are open to coming and talking about this charter to any organization, group, body, whatever, in the town that would be interested in having a dialogue with us about it. The public hearings were the place at which people were allowed to make comments, criticisms, amendments, ideas, etc., to this document, and that happened at all three of our public hearings. We worked very closely with the employees. They were the first group of people that we talked with when we started writing the charter. We invited them to come to a meeting with us and share their ideas as far as this document is concerned. You will notice in the document that we did retain the Budget Committee. Mike has served on that for years, I believe, and is well aware of what the Budget Committee does. They would have final authority, final recommendations in presenting the annual budget for the county. We also wrote into the document a recall procedure so that if the voters are not happy with the performance of their county commissioner, there is a process outlined in here in Article 7 as to how they could possibly recall that commissioner and remove them from office. The rest of it is pretty exciting in some cases and pretty boring in others. One of the things that really floored me when I initially started asking questions was that the county commissioners do not have any bylaws under which they operate. I couldn't believe it. So we have put in here a provision for them within 90 days of their election to create a set of bylaws for their operation as a board of county commissioners. I'm open to questions, comments. Mike?
Just one question on your budget committee information, and looking through that, the budget committee convenes, goes through its normal process, it presents its final budget that it adopts to the new commissioners.
Right.
And then the commissioners have within 15 days to accept that. If they don't accept that, are they then setting what the budget should be? Or if they don't accept it, it goes back to the committee to be? It
would go back to the committee. Yep, it would. So that, and you notice in there also under the budget committee that there is a provision for them to, with a majority, by the affirmative vote of 11 of its members, of which there would be, I believe, 14, they can modify any line item in the budget if they can get themselves organized so that 11 of them agree on.
So that's, the budget committee is basically the same process?
Same process, yes. Yep. There were some people who came to us and said that the budget committee should be eliminated. But we said, no, this is another opportunity for people in towns and cities in the county to have a voice in how government at the county level is operating. We felt that was absolutely essential.
Mark, any questions?
I do.
Yes.
We currently have a county commission, so how do you see this new charter changing, other than the number of commissioners, how the commission works?
The county, because of the county administrator, the individual commissioners would have a much lighter workload than they do currently.
Right.
They are there almost constantly. Many days, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. They're in the building, doing things, doing committee work, working with department heads. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of work for 3 people. And much of what they're currently doing could readily and quickly be handled by an administrator.
Okay.
So it would take the workload off of them.
And do you see, I know that we don't have districts
Right.
aligned yet, but you have a clear idea of
Yes.
how it probably will go.
Right.
And I think that the fear that some people have is that people who are not in Lewiston and Auburn won't be represented as well as the residents of Lewiston and Auburn, even though Lewiston and Auburn is the bigger chunk of the county.
Under the districts that we had proposed, 5, I believe, or maybe 4, it could be 4 or 5, of those people would be from outlying towns. And it could be as high as 7 if the outlying towns got their acts together and proposed and ran candidates who could be elected from those towns. Because there were parts of Lewiston, for example, I think Ward 6, is that the one that's down this way? Was in with Lisbon and Durham. So it behooves the people of Lisbon and Durham to get together and come up with a candidate who can defeat a person who might be running from Lewiston's Ward 6. And that's going to happen in probably 3 different districts. We had another district, I think it was Ward 1, or part of Ward 1 was in with Green. So
Okay.
initially, we were trying to look at districts in terms of school administrative districts, but that didn't work because of the size of populations, for example, in Turner and Poland and Lisbon, those being the 3 larger outlying towns. So it became very cumbersome. But we had worked it out, but now it's
Back to the drawing board.
back on the drawing board for a later date.
Any other questions from council? Now, when is this actually going to the...
November's election.
November's
It'll be
election.
on the ballot in November. And you have the wording for it, I believe, in Article 8.1. The form of the question on the referendum ballot to approve or disapprove the adoption of the proposed charter shall be, and it's at the top of page 16, shall the county approve the new charter for Androscoggin County drafted and recommended by the Androscoggin County Charter Commission.
And since this is the last time, you basically have the opportunity to speak to the Lisbon people, unless they ask.
I
you to
hope
come-
it's not the last time, but
Hopefully they ask and come in, but just in case, if you were to have a couple of quick bullets to actually say why this should be passed, and Lisa kind of brought that forth a little bit, would you say the idea of possible better representation, more organization, and better just overall planning of,
and more
Government.
input from more constituencies.
okay? If there was a drawback at all that you've seen going through this that will change, did you find any drawbacks as involved as you are?
Nope.
There shouldn't be any fallback, so I mean,
I personally, I think this is the right thing to go for Androscoggin County. I mean, based on at least the years that I've served on the Budget Committee, the 3 commissioners, while they try as best as they can, right, them dealing with negotiations and all kinds of things like that, and you're only having basically an Auburn, a Lewiston, and then one.
Another.
You're not representing the town, the Androscoggin County
as a whole.
in its fullest, right? Whereas I believe what this Charter Commission has done, and when they get their district set, there'll be much more of an opportunity to represent Androscoggin County as a whole and have better representation.
So unless someone can find a reason why they wouldn't, it ought to be something they ought to vote for to try to move forward with the county.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Bringing us into the 22nd century.
Yes. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you, sir.
This is a difficult effort.
Absolutely, yeah, I mean, something that's been ongoing for a long period of time.
Well, they typically take 18 months to do. That's what ours took.
Twyla, next.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. We
Thank you.
appreciate the information. And there was something you wanted to add in also?
Oh, yes. Before we move on to the road paving schedule, I wanted to let the council know that the following individual terms will expire for this November election as well. And town council at large, 3-year Lori Pomelo's position will be up. And council District 1, 3-year Mark Lunt's position would be up. And council District 2, 3-year position, Michael Bowie's position is up. And the Budget Advisory Board at large, Don Fellows, District 1, John Eckhart, and District 2, Dorothy Fitzgerald. And on the school committee, Pete Reed and Kathy Jurgen, and on the Water Commission, Stan Dowdy Jr. Nomination papers will be available on or after August the 13th at 8:30 a.m. Papers need to be returned to the town clerk for filing on or before September 21 at 4:30 p.m. Okay?
Well.
Thank you. And the next item would be the 2012-13 road paving schedule.
Ryan and I can talk a little bit about this. We had appropriated $120,000 this year for paving, mostly shims and overlay if we were going to do anything. Also, we have some remaining funding left from the bond that we used for the projects out on Ferry Road and very specific other roads, Hewden and several others. I checked with the bond attorney, and if we want to use that funding, we can only use it on the roads that the bond said we were going to do. And so what we had left, we had done all the roads on that schedule, except we had done just a section of Ferry Road. And we would include that as one of the roads that we would probably do as well this year. But these are the roads that Ryan and I have, and Ryan and Buttons and myself have looked at, and we went out again today, one more time, and looked at them. One road that we might take out, it's not in too bad a shape, would be North Street, compared to the others anyway. But I think if you have any questions, the sections are there, the width, the length, estimated tons. These are based on $80 a ton. And of course, those prices are all over the place, but we'll put it out to bid and see what we get for bids and see what we can do.
I think you have two sheets. One was like the master, big list, shows all kinds of money that we don't have. We kind of whittled that down, mostly based on each end of town. And then some of the roads that saw maybe more traffic than others. One of my chief concerns is a bunch of the cul-de-sacs that we have that are in dire need of repair, but I don't see them, I don't know when they're going to rise to the top of the priority list based on traffic volumes, but Russell Street's one that's bad, but it's also so bad that it's one that we probably should remove the asphalt first and start over. So again, we have this long list and a drop in the bucket at this point.
How much money do we have?
We have $120,000 available for just our shims and overlays, and Ferry Road, we have, what, about $100,000?
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of it
Plus or
depends on,
minus.
I mean, we got our bid for Fisher Road, and that project's gonna start probably next week. And barring any unforeseen problems, I mean, there could be anywhere from 75 to 100,000 that we can use towards Ferry Road, and what we would plan to do is start at Hewden and just go until it runs out. I mean, we'd like to go from Hewden to Wag, but we'll never make it with what we have for money.
We've got 200, almost 6,000 listed of roads on your list to go do shim and overlay on, right? So we can only do 100,000 of them, right?
Right.
Correct.
So I think we need to see what the prices come in at and see, and then,
We really wanted input too from
Now,
you
is
folks
this,
on what roads you're,
well, I don't know how many years ago it is now, but we put together, right, we went out and surveyed all the roads, and we had specific criteria, right, that
Yep.
dealt with ditching and all this other stuff, and what shape they were in, stuff like that, criteria, that ranked them into that. Do we still have that, and have we kept that up to date? And are these roads coming off from that list? Because if they're not, I think we should do that. I mean, we had
These roads were the next ones in line from that original
On
plan.
that list.
I'm quite certain. I'd have to go back and.
But have we, right, I mean, that list,
No,
is
no.
like a comprehensive plan,
Gone
or it's
back
like
and
anything
reapplied
else,
the
right?
same tool that you were
Some things happen
using.
over time, so I think we should update that list first and get it in line with what we think the conditions of the roads are now based on our rating criteria, and see, it may be the same roads, it may not be, I don't know. Something may have happened in the interim that drives us to say there's another road that's more important.
Yeah, we can certainly do that. I think we took the list, how you had rated it, and went back to the ones that
It's not
were
possible.
considered the worst, and
And I think that's fine, I
reinvented
just
it.
think that can't be a off-the-shelf list, that has to be a living document, so that it's looked at every year and updated based on what happens with weather and conditions and stuff like that.
Certainly do that.
And I'm assuming whatever roads we pick to do, we're gonna do full-blown ditching and everything ahead of time, so that we make sure we have, getting the water off the roads, because
Yep.
that's what causes the, cracks and everything to form.
We're also going to be focusing on trees as much as we can, too. to keep-
Highland's quite a job. I mean, you actually, when I think of Highland, that's shaded.
I'm not
Well, that's
worried
what
so
we-
much about trees, because they don't affect the road. Sight of the road, yes,
Well,
but
they affect it if it gets
They
sun.
do,
and
they
all.
do them both ways. I mean, you've got the problems with most of the, I mean, take any road in town right now, except for the ones we cut recently, and they're all, you drive down Summer Street, you drive down Gould Road, you go Highland, I mean,
Webster.
they all have, the trees are right there, and it's the canopy over that doesn't help in the wintertime either, because it ends up icing over.
True,
It sits
yeah,
there,
that's
so
true.
but the same deal we ran into with Fisher Road, you can only cut back so far because we only have
so much property,
minimal right-of-way.
right.
So, and that runs into the same problem with the ditching.
So if
We
you
can only ditch, it's like why we've had such a hard time ditching anywhere on Main Street. We rode Main Street today with DOT because they're looking at the section from Houston Street to just after Summer Street. And DOT guy and AVCAR guy, we're driving through there, and there's no place to put ditches on a majority of that stretch. It all needs to be closed drainage. And that's
Pricey.
expensive.
Better than
We've
no
gotta
ditching,
maintain it.
better than no drainage at all. Right now, it's drainage onto the road, so
Right.
But the problem is we
Yeah.
can't get.
can't get to the
there's
property.
nothing- when the banks are this high and the road's down here and you've only got so much right of way, then
Yeah.
we're in a
Unless you
bond.
put retaining walls, at that point, you're big
That's the
dollars.
concerns we had with them doing 196, is they weren't doing ditching in some places. I think they could have banked it to get the water off the road, so I'm hoping that.
Well, they say that's our responsibility.
Yeah.
Well, we ended up in the same type of situation though on
We'll,
Route 9.
we'll update the list. We have time, because I don't think the plants will close until probably
Well, Usually it's
October.
right around, depending on last year I think they made it till December, but,
Can't count on that.
and the other plan that, at least in my mind, for some of this money is to pick some areas and do just some, without paving the entire road, do some spot, either grinding and then pave, or we'll go in and cut out a piece and pave in a piece, instead of just taking, some of the roads we looked at, we could maybe shrink up distances if we really want to try to stretch around, but that's kind of some of the feedback we're looking for, because I don't know how much the pricing will change if we've got if we make the contractor jump around from all of the
Yeah, true.
creation.
Yeah. But yeah, on the other hand, you want to get the best bang for the buck.
Yep.
Just one quick note, yep.
In Lisbon, once they do 196 and resurfacing of 196, are they going to do anything with that intersection? Because there's some pretty nasty places on Main Street, Lisbon Village.
Yeah.
Which
I think
intersection?
that
Which intersection?
Graziano's, I believe.
Oh,
right?
Village Street?
And there's some people that complained about that a year ago.
Yeah.
And they're waiting to see if they're going to get that fixed. And now they've done the highway, that's really going to broadcast that.
I think, believe by the right scope of their repair is just the width of the,
They're gonna pave, they're gonna take and address, most of the area of that intersection was taken when they ground it out.
Yeah.
But they're not gonna go very far, but they'll go in a little ways into Village.
Scope of
to
their-
match into it. You look at where they ground out for the driveways, there's not much. They're supposed to finish the main line paving tonight if they get good weather, which they should, and then they're gonna start doing the shoulders during the day, but they haven't even finished the shoulders in Lewiston, so I'm not sure how long before they'll be back all the way through and done.
Going back to this, pretty much, I guess, going back to Mike's comment, the idea that we need to look back and make sure these fit the criteria that was put in place. But at this point, what you're looking at is basically getting a contractor or contractors in to give quotes on these.
Well,
To
what
actually
we've
figure out
done
where
in the
we're gonna be.
past, and it's been several years since we've had any money, is that we'll put out a bid requesting a shipment overlay price per ton, and that's how the bid will be chosen, by ton. And then it's up to the guys, us, to babysit the contractor and make sure they're not dumping the entire budget on one road. But then, and there'll be a generic list that they'll have as well, saying this is roughly the list of roads that we want to do. So they've got locations and ideas of how far they got to move things around, and then they'll come back with their price per ton, and I'll come back and
Try to negotiate which roads, whether it's 3 roads or 4 roads or 3.5 roads or...
I mean, in the $80 a ton estimate, I'm using based on, Crooker gave us a price of, I believe it was $72 a ton for paving Fisher Road, as part of the whole project. So I'm optimistic that we can get in that, because I mean, some of the other prices were coming in still around $100.
So-
May do better by the end of the year, too, before they close the plants. They'll be looking for work.
So once you actually, I guess the direction that you're looking from us, next time, when you actually go through this and get that quote, are we going to do it in this environment? Are we going to have a workshop to go over options, or are you just going to tell us what you need, what you think is going to be the best to do? I mean, I guess...
It's up to you guys. How many workshops do you want?
Well, I mean, I think that the more information we get, the better, and I think the idea of us,
I think before he can go get the quote,
Right,
he needs
yes.
to know basically what roads we want to do.
Yeah.
So, right, what I was suggesting is that you go update your list based on the criteria that we've been using over the years and make sure that list is still correct. And then, if these are the roads you want to do, and you don't think you should do a third of the road instead of the whole thing, just to marry that outright, come back with what you want to go do, and then we'll decide. We'll say, okay, those are the roads, and that's the way it's going to pan out, and we'll go get the best price we can and see how far we can go.
with the 120,000 that we have,
Or less.
or less.
I mean, because like I say, I mean, you guys can tell me no, but I feel pretty hard about going and picking some parts on
Yeah.
196 Main Street that we're not having to deal with cold patching all winter long.
Oh, there's some stuff that's...
So there's
pretty-
going to be, I mean, and I really we haven't been able to narrow down those exact locations. I mean, I've got a handful of them in my head. I know Button's got a handful in his head, but we haven't said, yeah, we need to do these, and it's going to be X number of dollars to do them, so.
You're going to put a plan together,
Yep.
what we can do, and come in front of us again, tell us basically what you have to work with, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think the gist of tonight was to try to make sure that we're proceeding in the manner that you want us to proceed, so.
Well, limited funds, I mean, there's only one
We'd
way you
always
can
just
do it, right?
we'd always bank
Yeah.
the money and do nothing.
I don't think that's an option, though.
I
I
will.
can't see it going down.
Ferry Road, that's designated. You have to, if you're going to use that bond money,
Oh, it's Ferry Road, the rest of Pine Woods Road, the rest of Hewden Road. King Road, we did the entire thing on, so I mean, there's,
I would like to think that there's vendors in town paving, that cost would be greatly dependent on the idea that they're here. I mean, if they have all the equipment and staff in town, you would think that would be the best time to get stuff done, but
Haven't seen it yet.
it hasn't happened yet. But you would only think, wishful thinking, right?
again, hopefully they'll bid line.
we'll put it out to bid.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yep.
Any other questions? Sorry about that. Any other questions for Ryan on that?
I know I'm not supposed to speak, but the town is spending $20,000 for a town planner. How does
It really doesn't have anything to do with this, Dot. It doesn't, not with
It's not really
paving.
within her purview.
It's upgrading Lisbon Village, and if you don't improve Village Street, it's going to be a waste of time.
Twyla, next option?
The next item is under appointments. Order 2012-114, Planning Board, 2 associate members. Applicants were Curtis Lunt for a term expiring 6/30/2013, and Karen Parity for a term expiring 6/30/2014.
I make a motion to accept Curtis Lunt and Karen Parity.
I'll second it.
Should we split this up, Mark? Are you comfortable voting for?
I don't have any financial interest. in
Okay, I
it.
think you're all set. I just want to make sure. We'll vote as one package. Everybody in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
I just wanted to make sure.
don't stand to make any money off it now.
Not yet anyways, right? Next item, please.
Counselor Communications.
Any communications at all? All the way good? Mark, you all set?
Yeah, I'm all set.
I just have a short one. Our last workshop that we actually had a joint meeting with the planning board and the new planner. I think that went really well. I mean, there was a lot of questions asked, and there was something new for us, and I think at the end of the day, our planning board's going to be greatly benefited by the planner, and hopefully the people of town kind of pay attention, because I think there's some good things that are going to be coming out of it, and there's going to be a lot of opportunities for the town to actually weigh in with the planning board, which I think is going to be really important, because the feedback of the town is the planning board is here representing the town, and I think the planner will actually help them. So if you see anything advertised for meetings where the public's invited to come in and actually join the planning board for some planning and for some input, please do so. I know Don Fellows, the chair of the planning board, would like to have that. The more input, the better. I think it's a right step in the right direction for Lisbon. I think it's really time for us to really put our heads together and make sure the stuff we do for planning is actually headed in the right direction. I think we're going to be there. So just wanted to add that in. I think that's a positive move for Lisbon, actually getting the right people in place to make this all work. Seeing no other communications. Next item.
The next item would be to adjourn to a workshop.
So moved?
Second that?
All those in favor?
Order passed, 7-0.
Are we going to stay up here, or
No,
we can go down?
I think it seems to work better when we all sit around the table.
Yep.
Roger Terrio is here to walk